See a book, grab a book, read a book. Hey! See a book, grab a book, read a book. Hey! See a book, grab a book, read a book. Hey! Yesterday, tomorrow, I'ma read a book today. Freeze, what's your name? And where your book at? Freeze, what's your name? And where your book at? Freeze, what's your name? And where your book at? Freeze, what's your name? And where your book at? Peace. My name is Ekundayo Igeleke. I am a hip-hop creative and a cultural organizer. So if you know this song, just vibe with me for a little bit, all right? Branded, sister first kick fit, he landed. Labeled a misfit, a branded. His neighbors couldn't stand it, so he was banished to the park. Started in the morning, wouldn't stop till after dark. Yeah, when they said it's getting late in here, so I'm sorry, young man, there's no skating here. So he kicked, he pushed, he kicked, push, coast. Song is by Lupe Fiasco. Song is titled Kick Push. The song came out in the mid-2000s, and it's popular for a variety of reasons. But one reason why it has such a huge impact is because it highlighted the fact that young people around the globe participated in the sport of skateboarding, contrary to what the professional industry portrayed, which was a more white folks and not a lot of people of color on the screen when they would look at hip-hop, when they would look at skateboarding. And so I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, a predominantly black community. And in this community, we didn't skateboard much. I didn't really know much about it, and I think part of it was because we did associate skateboarding with whiteness. But when I went to Las Vegas, I moved to Las Vegas and I was in middle school. And when I was there, I saw that skateboarding was a part of Western culture, but it was much more than that. I saw that everybody participated in the culture, no matter people's background, race, right, class background, race, sexual orientation. And though myself, I never participated in the sport, I understood how hard it took to be a master on the board. And that's what I connected with. So when I was in high school, I was a full-time, of course I was a full-time student, but I was a dedicated student, and I was a year-round athlete. So I understood what it took, the sacrifices that it takes to be great, right? Lupe's work spoke to me in other ways, too. I'm a little awkward at times, I'm a little introverted, right? And so he was vulnerable in his music. He talked about anime, he talked about video games, he talked about, the love of history and reading books, right? Things that are not the most dominant or popular amongst certain communities. And I connected with that deeply. And that, to me, was a reflection of hip-hop. And above all, his work reminded me to be bold, to master my craft, and that none of this can be possible in isolation, and it has to be done in community. Lupe's work also spoke to me in a variety of ways. This song itself has multiple themes, right? Has a lot of things you can pull from. I'm not going to spend this whole time. I could use this whole time actually talking about this one song. But what I want to talk to you today is about the power and the transformation of hip-hop itself, right? And I want to talk about this with the 5 elements in mind, particularly the 5th element, which is knowledge of self, consciousness. And in my opinion, I believe that this is what brings hip-hop into true harmony, gives it true purpose, and allows someone like myself to be a creative in an art form that I'm not an artist myself, but I can still be a participant in the culture. And so today I want to talk about that and how I've been able to do that in spaces of leadership, spaces of education, and also organizing spaces. But before I do that, I want to touch on a little bit of history here. Destruction, nevertheless, is still a form of creation, right? For example, the decay of land by way of water, scorching heat can create mountains. Right? And in the 20th century, imperialism, capitalism, racism, patriarchy, sexism destroyed communities around the world. But what was uprooted was freedom movements, artistic movements, and also hip-hop. August 11th, 1973, in the Bronx, DJ Kool Herc threw a back-to-school jam. We consider this the birth of hip-hop, but also understand that the Bronx at the time was like a war zone. All infrastructure basically was failing. Kids was raising kids. The streets was flooded with drugs, right? It was to the point of genocide because of the poverty level. plain to say that the city and the state of New York just did not care about these young people, these black, brown, white, poor people. But young people have always prevailed, always. And the way they prevailed was through art and ways to handle conflict through art. Hence the creation of hip-hop, DJing, MCing, graffiti, breakdancing, and the fifth element, like I said, that I think that brings us all into harmony and gives it true purpose is that fifth element of knowledge of self, consciousness. As I take you through my journey today, please don't get eclipsed by the domination of the rap industry. They give you one snippet of hip-hop, just one perspective, right? And know that hip-hop, you can find hip-hop in Tokyo, in galleries. You can find hip-hop in classrooms at Harvard. And you can find hip-hop right here in Columbus, everywhere, everywhere. It's that back-to-school jam, you know what I'm saying? Happy man here. I'm going to talk about this. From 2006 to 2011, I was a student at the University of Cincinnati. And while I was there, I did graduate. It's a happy day. I immersed myself in social, cultural, historical, political thought through an Africana lens. And my old mentor, who's passed away now, Dr. Terry Kershaw, taught us that theory with no practice is academic exploitation. It's not grounded in liberation. How can you study people and not interact with them? How can you study folks and not think of solutions, collective solutions? And so I began to experiment. I had this in mind. I began to experiment with hip-hop on my campus and in the community. In 2012, I launched my program, Let's Rap About It. Let's Rap About It is my leadership frame for a variety of programs and trainings that is meant to focus on the creative juices in our minds to think about our freedom and how can we make actions about that? How can we live into that dream and that freedom? And so my first session was in 2012. I was organizing parents in Avondale, Cincinnati, which is a predominantly black community in Cincinnati. In my first session, I collaborated with a few parents. And the focus of this session was the triumphs and tribulations of raising black children in ghettos, right? And we used Lil Wayne's song, How to Love. If you know Lil Wayne and this song, it's a powerful song. We used this song as our base, and we had such a powerful discussion. It was creative, it was healing. Parents felt like they needed, this is their therapy for a moment, right? It was great. And at the end of this, we decided that we wanted to do this every month for a calendar school year. From that moment on until now, I've worked with universities such as the University of Cincinnati and Ohio State University. I've worked with teachers. I've worked with policymakers. I've worked with researchers. I've worked with tons and tons of people, students, teachers. I've also organized with juvenile justice advocates and prison abolitionists. I've worked with, like I said, policymakers and researchers in the United States and in the United Kingdom using this framework, thinking about how we can create decriminalization bills for juvenile offenders. From 2013 to 2017, I was a part of the Freedom School movement. The Freedom School movement was started in 1964 by an organization called the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. This program's goal was to embody the idea that education and organizing is the vehicle to our freedom, right? It's the base of who we are. And within this program, we created some hip-hop elements. I'll talk about a few. In our teacher trainings, it shows up pretty often. In our books, in our curricula, in our lesson plans, right? Hip-hop would show up. We would have, my wife sitting here, taught dance classes in hip-hop for a few years. Our staff helped young people create music, helped them record the music, helped them engineer the music, helped them figure out how to perform, right? It's a very powerful program. And there's one section in the program called Harambe. It's the first 30 minutes of the day. It's hard to explain this if you ain't there, you understand? But imagine, like, the first 30 minutes of your school day where you in a gymnasium and you just having a good time, right? Full of joy, full of love, right? And we do that because that's how you start the day, right? What is more inspiring to start your academic studies than the morning being full of joy, full of love? An example of that activity we do within that is called Cheers and Chants. An example of that is what I did when I first got on the stage. And what I did, and what we do, is we remix hip-hop songs. That song is by OJ the Juice Man. It's about selling drugs. We remix songs to have educational content. The young people, these kids, they K through 12, they know the music, right? They know the songs, right? It's no getting around that. But they appreciate it even more because of that, right? And they understand why we do it that way. So imagine you got 100, kids, K through 12. You got staff members, about 20 staff members, and we all just every morning having a good time turning up about education, right? That's powerful. That is transformational in itself. The young people in the program, right, they will eventually go home and listen to the radio or just know songs and just remix songs on their own. They'll come back to the program and be like, yo, we need to learn this. And we would perform it in Harambe, right? It become a part of our curricula that the young people would create these songs and this content. It's a beautiful thing. After the 8 weeks is over, they have a difficult time adjusting back to public school. And there's no shame on public school, but the difference is that we have found a way to immerse them in the culture that they own, that they create, right? That hip-hop reflects them constantly. So it does make it a little difficult to adjust at times. But this also just highlights the power of hip-hop. Imagine if we took all these elements out of it, these hip-hop elements, right? What impact will we really be making, right? This leads me to my next point. For me, I learned the most about music through DJs. To me, DJs are the masters of sound, vibration, sampling, history, music theory. Columbus' very own DJ O'Sharp, DJ Craig Digger, DJ Rawls are some great examples, right, of just a body, a human spirit of knowledge of the music, right, and to be able to help people move through that. Hip-hop has a place in education, public schools, and in colleges. And in fact, it already exists. There are researchers and practitioners who have infused hip-hop into college curricula, into public schools as well, all throughout the country in various ways. Subjects range from the arts, drama, photography, theater, right, writing, spoken word, creative writing, to the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, yes, STEM fields too, in a very dope way at that. Social, political thought, and a variety of other subjects. I won't get into that, that's another talk for another time, but know that this work exists in multiple forms. So, I want to share one story, one last story, connected to hip-hop-based education and hip-hop-based leadership. Over the summer, I partnered with an organization called the Center for Educational Excellence in Alternative Settings. It's a very long name. But they do damn good work. They implement schools inside of prisons, inside of jails, inside of juvenile correctional facilities where there are none, right? They are making sure that young people, even in incarceration, that they get an education, right? It's a very powerful thing. So over the summertime, we combine 3 different elements: arts-based education, hip-hop-based education and leadership, and we combine a freedom school hybrid model in New Orleans for young men ages 17 to 21 who are locked down. And over the course of this 5 weeks, these young people have 5 different classes, multiple components. I'm giving you the short version here. But they had 5 components in this, it had 5 classes, in this program. MCing, beat making was one, drumming, photography, street art, street performance. Here's a picture of the young people here working on a couple pieces inside the prison. Just to give you some context, there are no windows in this building. These young people, like, when you see on TV, and some prisons are like this, but you see them, like, going out into the yard and getting outside and having fresh air. No, in this facility, these young people don't get a chance to go outside. They get no fresh air. So the arts was more than just art, right? It was a way of life. It was to breathe life into these young people to exist even in these concrete walls, you feel me? And they put these murals inside the facility, right? On these blanketed walls, they had the opportunity to create some art all throughout the building. It was highly transformative for the young people. It was highly transformative for the staff. And the purpose is we want to continue to do this because we want to transform the entire facility, the culture of the facility, right, to be less punitive and to think about restoration for these young people. That's me. That's my wife. I got married August 11th, 2018, which is an anniversary of hip-hop. There was a lot of intention there. Thankfully, that Saturday fell on the 11th. But a week prior, I collaborated with a creative named James Drakeford. He's a local creative and photographer. He does phenomenal work. And we merged our ideas and our theories for one event. I run a program, as I said, Let's Rap About It. He runs a program called Culture Talk Change Agents. And we wanted to create this robust conversation about the current state of hip-hop in the community and also throughout the world. And this program was a reminder. It was a good reminder that hip-hop creates a platform for people to be creative, even when they're not an artist, right? For artists and non-artists alike. That, to me, again, is the indicator that this is more than just music. It's a culture. So many elements to it that anybody and everybody has a place in it, right? With integrity, right? But everybody can be a part of this movement. So I'll leave you with this. All movements, all art forms have growing pains, like we all do, right? And these movements and art forms can be considered experimental until they've reached the point of so-called validity. Hip-hop is beyond that. Hip-hop is a global culture. You see it and you don't see it. But if you pay attention, you will always see it out there. It is a global culture. And to me, it's the new standard. And because of that, our core of our work should reflect that in some kind of way. When done with true integrity, with the fifth element always at the core and at the center, I believe that we can make a tremendous impact in our schools, in our communities, and even in the prison system. Thank you.